Welcome to another Thunder Thursday at newsok.com. We're talking all things Thunder basketball, and we're going to do it with our esteemed panel. We're starting with Erik Horne, our Thunder beat writer, Jenni Carlson, columnist, and Berry Tramel, columnist. I'm your host, Darnell Mayberry, for today. Guys, we got to start with the latest in the Kevin Durant versus the Thunder saga. This is a drama. What is going on here? How did we get here, and what in the world is happening?
For me personally, a couple weeks ago, I was kind of tired of this storyline. You know, there was obviously the media days that were happening, and so guys were saying stuff. Felt a little tired to me, but guys, these last couple days with what Durant said out in the Bay Area, it's kind of gotten me more interested in this because I just think it's kind of crazy, as much as anything, what he's saying about the Thunder. You know, talking about basically insinuating that the Warriors is a very family-like atmosphere, somehow that the Thunder wasn't. To me, there are a lot of things you could say about failings of the Thunder. I don't think having a familial atmosphere and an atmosphere that cares about players is one you can say. It just seems like he's talking crazy.
I'll read you the direct quote. You hear family a lot. That's just a word sometimes, but this is really a lifestyle here. You can feel it when you walk in the door, in the practice facility. Everybody is just together. Kevin Durant's quotes, I think, to a panel out there. They were doing some sort of fan forum with Joe Lacob, the owner, and Bob Myers, the GM. Guys, what do you make of those comments?
Well, who cares what we make of them? What does Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut make of them? I mean, they're part of the family, and last May, their brother, Draymond Green, is conspiring to get them off the team at the first sign that's possible so they can clear room for Kevin Durant. So Durant's just talking. That's all he's doing.
Barry, you mentioned Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut. Erik, my question is Russell Westbrook and Nick Collison, those guys who we played with and battled with for 8 years here in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, and then Russell Westbrook kind of made it clear to us today how he felt about it and saying, you know, that's cute. Which is
that's
the
our new catchphrase, by the way.
Yeah, which is the quote that's circulating around the internet now, and also made a point to say, like, we've got to worry about these selfish guys here, apparently, talking about his Thunder teammates in allusion to Durant's comments about the Warriors being a selfless team. Now, Durant did make a point to say that he wasn't talking about or comparing the Golden State Warriors to the Oklahoma City Thunder, but it is just a curious usage of words. And as Barry said, I think sometimes Durant just gets to saying stuff and he doesn't really, I don't know if he really thinks about what he's saying and how it impacts the people that he's with now and the people that he used to be with.
Well, and I think, too, it's not just the guys on the court. I mean, you bring up a great point, Darnell, the fact that, you know, Westbrook and Collison have been there, you know, since day one for Durant. Collison, you know, all the way back in Seattle. But, you know, you think about this organization from people we see all the time in games and people the public never sees behind the scenes. You know, every time there's a new guy that comes to this franchise who's spent any time in the league, you start talking to him about what about playing in this organization? What about being a part of the Thunder? First class, first class, first class. The inclusiveness of this organization to really work for players. And for 8 years in Oklahoma City, that has included Kevin Durant. And so he's not just saying, you know, essentially insinuating it's not a family here. It's not just about the players. It's about the assistant coaches. It's about the trainers. It's about the chefs. It's about, you know, the masseuses. It's about all the people that we never even think about when we think about the Thunder and how they have tried to bring players along. To me, it's ridiculous because we know Presti, others have been to jersey retirements and surgeries and doctor's appointments and who knows what else. I mean, it's impossible to even know. But it's just, it's really, like I said, I'm more fired up about this now because I just think he's talking crazy. And if he's not, I'm shocked because it just it doesn't even ring true with what we've heard from so many players over the years about this organization.
And when he says, oh, I really wasn't referring to the Thunder, who's he referring to? The Portland Trail Blazers? I mean, he's played for one franchises in his career. Now he's at another one. If he's talking about any franchises, that's the only two that come to the table.
And there are Kevin Durant defenders who are saying, well, he's not mentioning the Thunder. He's not talking about the Thunder or comparing the Warriors to the Thunder. Here's another quote that he said as well. I'm used to going into practice and having it a certain way. These guys around here are super loose, but disciplined at the same time. It's just a fun brand. They make basketball just even more fun than it was. How is that not talking about the Thunder?
If you're using the past tense, it is directly bringing the Thunder into the conversation. Let's just talk about the University of Texas or something.
Or Montrose Christian, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Montrose Christian.
Yeah. Well, and here's the
Drew
other
League or something.
The other thing too is he was the leader of this team for 8 years. If he wanted to transform that environment in practice, on the court, in the locker room, in the team, he could have done that. He had that ability as the unquestioned leader of this team. So to say that, okay, it may be different, but if you wanted to make it different, go do it, big fella.
You've got the power.
Yeah.
You're the face of the franchise, the voice of the team. You have that authority to do that.
Unless he wasn't the face, unless he wasn't the leader. He clearly was the face. Maybe he wasn't the leader. Maybe this has been Russell Westbrook's team all along.
True.
And maybe, I'm not trying to sit here and say everybody's going to have a royal time working with Russell Westbrook 250 days a year. I mean, that can wear on you. We all know that. But all that talk, you wrote 1,000 stories about Thunder U, about the fraternity lifestyle, just a bunch of young guys growing up together. The Stash Brothers the last year, all they do is clown around. I mean, if you're not loose at Thunder practice, that's your own problem. So I think Kevin Durant's just talking. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's out to get the Thunder. I think he's just talking and probably needs to stop.
You wonder, though, if he is just talking, is he regurgitating things that he's heard? And who knows where he's heard those from? I don't pretend to know. I'm not in that inner circle. I'm not trying to be. But you just wonder if you're just talking, do you start to repeat things that somebody somewhere along the line has told you and that you sort of, let bounce around your head and suddenly it comes flying out your mouth? I don't know. But it's like I said, I'm way more interested now than I was even 2 or 3 weeks ago about this whole thing.
I think it's just important to add. I mean, I think all the points you guys are making are solid and on point. But I think it's important to add that the Thunder has moved on from this, particularly the players.
Yeah.
Russell said today that he doesn't want to talk about this anymore. And frankly, we probably wouldn't be talking about it anymore either. But Kevin Durant continues to say things. So I'm not going to personally, as a Thunder beat reporter, I'm not going to stand around and not ask Russell Westbrook about these things. So to people who are curious about why this continues to come up, it's because the Kevin Durant side is talking about it, and we have to ask the questions as need be. And I thought Russell handled it fairly well and got his part in that he wanted to say clearly as well.
And it's also only been 3 months. I think people have to understand that it's only been 3 months since Kevin Durant made his decision. This story is not going anywhere anytime soon, definitely not 3 months. But with that being said, there are a lot of people that want this story to go away. They don't want to hear about, particularly Thunder fans, don't want to hear about Kevin Durant anymore. They want to hear about the Thunder, the new guys that are on the team, the 6 new players, and where the franchise goes from here. With that being said, are we making too big of a deal out of these Kevin Durant comments?
I mean, like I said, I thought a couple weeks ago it felt like it was getting a bit overplayed. But, again, when I think, as Berry, said, he's really just seemingly talking right now and not really making much sense. So I think to just stand by and, those of us who know and have covered the team for a long time and have a sense of what's real and true, and then to not allow these guys to have their say-so. I mean, I don't think that would be doing our job, to say, this is what we know to be true. We know the Stash Brothers to be true. We know, car karaoke in New Zealand to be true. We've seen these things. So, to just ignore that, I think, would not be doing our job.
Barry, the thing that I think fans, particularly Thunder fans, have to understand is Kevin Durant is going to be the best player who ever played in Oklahoma City. He's going to have his jersey retired someday. What he did for this franchise, for this city, for this state, for this region, it's not going to go away. I mean, I think we have to keep that in perspective, the historical context of who we're talking about and what he meant to this city and this team.
What I find interesting regarding Durant's subject matter is we always speculated, and nationally people speculated, if Durant ever left the Thunder, it was going to be because of the city. Just didn't want to live in a market this small, didn't want to live in this part of the country, would prefer someplace more exotic. And most people, while you didn't really like that news, you could sort of understand it. And yet, he's not really said one negative thing about Oklahoma City or Oklahoma. But he's indicted the Thunder franchise. And I'm not saying it's flagrant. I'm not saying it's huge. But he has taken some shots at the Thunder franchise, which everyone always said is the reason that he might stay. So everything is flipped around. But you're right. He is going to be an He's in the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. I mean, you can't.
He's a Hall of Famer already.
Unless they vote to take him out, which, Kevin, you might hold back on some of the comments because the same people that put you in, they got the power to take you out. But you're right. He's going to be, he's going to be a landmark figure in this state's history. Someday he'll be back here in a business suit or one of Russell Westbrook's outfits, and we're gonna retire his jersey, and everybody's gonna cheer, and it's gonna be a beautiful night. But the truth of the matter is, that night is a lot farther away than it was going to be if he'd have kept his mouth shut. Because I do think there have been some wounds over this. And right now, Kevin Durant is not the most popular basketball player in the history of this state. Russell Westbrook is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Mr. Thunder, I believe you guys are calling him.
Yeah.
There was the one vague comment that Kevin Durant made about, no one cares if I want to go fishing. I don't know if he had anything against Lake Overholser or Lake Arcadia, or Lake Hefner. I don't know, but you can get some pretty good fishing done here in Oklahoma. But
I would assume.
Who knows what this decision was all about? I think that's the thing that we in Oklahoma are all still wondering. Why did he make the decision, and why does he continue to make these comments about the decision as opposed to just moving on and enjoying his team with the Warriors?
And it's the fascination of relationships, too. I mean, when people break up, or if you experience a breakup, you wonder to yourself, like, what did I do wrong? What are they thinking? How long were they thinking this? And that's just natural human interaction. That goes beyond basketball. And that's something that Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and the millions of people that watch him across the world, they all go through. So for us, it's a fascination of wanting to know what that relationship is like what that relationship was. And that's something that's always going to be a story until we really know the ins and outs of what happened between those two guys. Russell Westbrook, he was the guy who inducted Kevin Durant into the Hall of Fame just less than a year ago. Yeah. And in that period of time, look how much has transpired.
And we wrote story after story. You wrote it, I wrote them, you guys wrote them. Anthony Slater, who's moved on and to cover Kevin Durant.
And has not said anything bad about us.
Not the Oklahomans, not Oklahoma City, none of it.
We wrote story after story about how they're brothers, how they're like family. You mentioned the presentation into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. And then now they don't even talk. I mean, something about that dynamic is just not right.
Well, and I think, aside from the relationship aspect of it, I think there's also this part of the saga that is Kevin Durant as Mr. Good Guy. Katie is not nice was obviously a play on just how nice of a guy he is. I mean, he's great with everybody. He knows everybody. He loves everybody. And now this was going to be a move that vilified him. Just the move in and of itself was going to vilify him among some sports fans, some NBA fans. But now you start to add this, and it's just such a character shift on an individual level, much less the relationship, to have this guy go from so lovable, nothing bad about him, to, people going, wait, what? Just out of character, I think, is part of it too.
Well, the Beatles sang about it 50 years ago. A love that should have lasted years. And here's the truth about Westbrook and Durant. And Jacko has no idea what we're talking about. But males,
I was like,
we don't
where is this
necessarily,
going?
when somebody moves on, even if we don't necessarily keep in touch all the time. I mean, I love AC Slater, but I haven't talked to him since the first week of August. And I'm busy, he's busy, Durant's busy, Westbrook's busy. I don't know that Westbrook is mad at Durant except for the talking. I mean, I think Westbrook probably says, okay, I'm going to try to beat you. But then he keeps hearing stuff and says, well, what's this all about? Inside he says, what's this all about? Outwardly he says, that's cute. So I think everybody's just mystified by Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
We're just mystified by him because
he's getting Rick James tattooed on his leg, people. What is going on here?
It's just strange. It's just strange.
I don't know why I haven't thought about this until now, but for some reason, the only thing I thought about in terms of the Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook matchups this season is the 4 meetings between the teams. But for some reason, I didn't think about the All-Star game and them being on the same team when it comes to the Western Conference, barring injury or anything that happens. Those guys are going to be on the same team in the same locker room, potentially on the court together, starting. What is that going to be like? What's the conversation going to be like?
Interesting.
You know, I just had a thought. I just thought about this. What we should do Thunder Thursday like all the time. We'd come up with all sorts of stuff.
Thunder Monday.
We talked about the fact that Westbrook didn't go to the Olympics, and good thing he didn't. Man, that would have been awkward. But maybe it would have been good. Maybe if these two guys would have been in the same proximity together after that happened, maybe instead of never calling each other, they'd have talked it out and everything would have been better. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe the U.S.
They'd
comes
come to
home with bronze.
Guys, one more question. I promise. Final question about Kevin Durant, and we'll move on and talk about the actual basketball product. He obviously didn't handle it well. Everyone in Oklahoma, most people in Oklahoma can agree to that. How should he have handled it? What could he have done differently to make this departure, this breakup better?
Well, I mean, as Berry said, he's never really said anything disparaging about the city or the people. But to me, you know, I think just thank yous across the board. I mean, and I didn't really hear him thanking people, whether, you know, as a whole or individuals. And that was something I thought, you know, was missing that first press conference. And I think that sort of we've seen that now grow to some of these things we're seeing, you know, not really a spirit of appreciation. He doesn't have to, you know, pledge to go into the, you know, Naismith Hall of Fame wearing Thunder Blue. He doesn't have to do that. But to thank people for developing him, from, you know, taking him from a college kid with promise to the best offensive player, you know, on the planet or whatever, you know, to really have that appreciation. And I've never really felt that from him. There was no billboard. There was no, you know, ad in the paper, you know, not to trumpet or anywhere. Yeah. You know, there just wasn't, there's not really sort of been appreciation.
No attitude of gratitude, Berry. What could he have done?
I think if he had just limited what he said, just say what might even be the truth, which is, just felt like something different, felt like something new. If somebody says that, you're sort of powerless to argue. I mean, if they feel that way, they feel that way. But when you start saying the purity of the basketball they play, the family style atmosphere I felt in a mansion in the Hamptons, which is mostly just nonsense, you know, those kinds of things.
Don't forget about the anonymous quote about Russell Westbrook being the reason.
Which clearly came from Durant's camp. So, yeah, just things like that. Just say, you know, I'm 28 years old. I thought I'd try something new. And we'd all, you know, that's what AC Slater did. He just said, I think I'll try this. He's 25, 26, try something new. Mm-hmm. So we can't get mad at him for that. So if Durant had just done that, you know, Bob Stoops says something about, you know, people always asking questions when things go wrong. And every once in a while he'll say, sometimes there's not a reason. Sometimes there's not a reason this play didn't work. You just didn't work. We just didn't win the game. And sometimes there's not a reason. Yeah. And sometimes there's not a smoking gun. Mm-hmm. So to pretend that there is or keep saying stuff out of school, that's a bad look for Durant. If he'd have just said that, let's look at LeBron. I mean, LeBron, when he went back to Cleveland, he just said, you know, I'm just going to try that. You know, I just feel like I want to go back. And, you know, people didn't like the presentation of the decision in 2010. Yeah. But the things he said was actually okay. It was the platform. He hasn't really, you know, he didn't declare war on the city of Cleveland or the Cavalier franchise. So, you know, you could learn something from LeBron, not the platform, but the things he said.
Yeah. In Kevin Durant's defense, he went to the Thunder's biggest rival. No matter how he handled it, people were going to take offense. Mm-hmm. You mentioned LeBron James, he went home. Anthony Slater, he went home. Kevin Durant went to the Thunder's biggest rival and, in effect, crippled the Thunder's chances of winning a championship, not just by leaving, but by going to the team he went to.
Yeah, but although if Durant had gone to Boston, Thunder's not any closer to winning the West. They were going to win the West without Durant, no matter where Durant is. I don't think. I mean, If Durant goes to Boston, Harrison Barnes and Bogut are still in Golden State, and they've got a 73-win roster. So what Durant, by going to Golden State, didn't wound Oklahoma City. He wounded the entire NBA, is what he did. Yeah. So everybody else in America needs to be mad at Durant for that.
All right, we're going to move on to basketball topics. You're watching Thunder Thursday at newsok.com. I'm Darnell Mayberry, joined by Berry Tramel, Jenni Carlson, and Erik Horne. Guys, we're midway through the preseason schedule. The Thunder is now 1-2 on the preseason slate. Not that that matters, but who have been your surprise performers thus far this preseason? Erik, let's start with you.
I liked what I've seen from Josh Eustace. He had a pretty good game against Dallas. I'm stumbling over my words. Sorry, y'all. But yeah, Josh Eustace has been a pretty good performer for the Thunder in the minutes that he's had. He closed strong against Barcelona overseas. He had a nice block in that game. We've known him to be a guy who can get those blocks from his college days at Stanford as a power forward. And against Dallas, he showed some things. At the end of the second quarter, he hit a buzzer beater from mid-range that he really took confidently and he took well. He showed an ability to defend multiple positions, not just forwards, but also guards as well. And for a guy who only played 5 games with the Thunder coming into this season, and that need for some players at the small forward position, I think Josh Eustace has shown us a little bit something in the preseason and should see his minutes increase.
I mean, Sabonis is, to me, the biggest surprise, just his...
I'll let you have Sabonis.
Yeah, but you know what? I think I'm going to trumpet Alex Abrinas a little bit because...
My guy! Been waiting on him for 3 years.
But I really have been more impressed with him than I thought I'd be. Now, I don't know how he's going to hold up over 82 games. He's still really slight, but he's shown some stuff and some abilities that, I mean, I've been more impressed with than I expected to be. Seems like he's got some grit to him. He's gonna have his struggles, I think, defensively, but offensively, and then the ceiling on this guy is still so big. I wonder if he's a guy that when you start talking about coming off the bench, who are those guys in those wing spots? A guy like Anthony Morrow, he is what he is. Abrinas is going to, he's going to improve. He's going to get better and better and better. So I just wonder if he's a guy that we don't see a pretty heavy dose of because offensively he's shown some skills, and I think while he's going to struggle with defensive concepts, he at least looks like a guy who's willing to give some effort, some heart out there on the defensive end. So I'm fairly intrigued by him.
Barry, are you paying attention at all to the preseason?
Yes, but under protest. I'm not big on preseason.
How many preseason games do you think they should have?
Oh, 3, plenty, I think. I mean, they got 6, and they played 2 of them against international teams. So,
yeah.
I mean,
so they think about 3 or 4.
3 or 4 seems the max.
Yeah.
However, they are a little bit beneficial this year for us because we're seeing a brand new team, and I don't know if it's going to resemble the Thunder whatsoever in Philadelphia in a couple of weeks. The name I'll throw out, Sabonis clearly to me, the starting, the minutes he's gotten, that's been a surprise to me that he's been thrown out there that quickly. But the guy that actually looks better than I thought he was is Ilyasova. You knew he could shoot, but he had 11 rebounds, I think. It was 11 rebounds Tuesday night in Dallas. So he's sort of getting with it. I was sort of impressed. Jacko interviewed him media day. I sat there and listened. I was pretty impressed with him. I think he's going to help him a lot more than I thought.
For those who don't know, we actually have the president of the Kyle Singler fan club right there in Erik Horne. I'm pointing at you, Erik.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
You didn't mention he had an explosive game at Dallas, one of his best games yet.
He had 4 points?
4? He had more than that in a quarter.
Did he only fall down once a quarter?
I don't even know if he fell. Talking about Singler, though, he did get his shot going against Dallas. He ended up with 17 points, and he had 4 3-pointers on 6 attempts, I think. And talking to Kyle, he said, it's always good to see shots go down. So this could be a turning of a new leaf for Mr. Singler.
Here we go. Okay, I'm going to sit back.
If Kyle Singer will play this season like he did in Detroit, last couple of years he was in with the Pistons, he's going to play 20, 25 minutes a game. There's no question about that.
Agreed.
But since he got here, He hasn't come close to that performance.
You can't do much worse than 30% from three, and I don't think Kyle Singler will do much worse than that this year.
It's the new hair, isn't it?
Sure, why not?
Guys, one guy we haven't mentioned is Russell Westbrook. Through 3 games, he's basically been playing the first and third quarters. What have you noticed out of him? Are we noticing any changes in his game, the way he's playing, the way he's getting teammates involved? Anything that stands out with Russell Westbrook so far?
I think he's just playing out the string for preseason. He's basically talking to the staff and saying, I want to play this many minutes, or I feel I want to play this. They're sticking him strictly to first and third quarters right now. He was just having a hoot a couple nights ago in Dallas. He wasn't really, I wouldn't say he wasn't taking it seriously, but he obviously wasn't pushing the issue.
He got hung on a dunk attempt.
He got packed by the rim. He got the ball wedged in between the backboard and the rim and laughed about it. He was laughing a lot. And even in post game, he was laughing about the idea of having to answer the questions that we were asking him after a preseason game. So Russell's been in a good mood this preseason. He's really played pretty well in the limited minutes he's had. I mean, that third quarter against Dallas, he really took over and started distributing the ball really well. He had maybe 5 or 6 assists in a short period of time. But Westbrook's just doing what he does right now. He's getting to the post when he wants to. He's getting to the basket when he wants to. He's not going to the basket a ton. And we've seen a couple of nice dunks from him this preseason. So when it's time to go, he's going to do what he does.
I do this.
He does this.
Don't get it twisted. You know better than anybody. You know better than anybody. You do this.
I do think one of the things that we really haven't seen excavated yet this preseason is Westbrook Oladipo. And it's preseason, I get it, but we really haven't seen that pairing full force extended, which I think is one of the things that could be the Thunder's biggest weapon is those two together on the court. And so, Oladipo's been playing a lot of minutes late in games without Westbrook. I think to really see those two and what they're going to do together, we just really haven't seen enough of it to get a sense of where that's going. But I'm really excited by that potential of those two together.
If the Thunder is to have what we would consider a good season, well into the playoffs and potentially win a first-round series, it will be because Oladipo and Westbrook became a dynamic backcourt. And if they're not a dynamic backcourt, the Thunder really can't do a lot this season.
Our Brett Dawson will have a piece in Friday's Oklahoman on how players handle the preseason, what they're trying to work on, how they use the preseason to better their games and growth and development. Be sure to pick that up. Guys, final question. About this team, the preseason's halfway over. They've got tonight's game against Memphis and Tulsa. So far from what you've seen, what's the biggest concern going into the regular season with this team?
Well, they clearly don't have enough outside shooting. I mean, they got 2 or 3 guys that you can put in, but they limit the flexibility of the roster when that happens. In a league where three-point game has become paramount, Thunder's going to try to win a different way. Maybe they can, but that's swimming upstream. This is a team with limited defensive flexibility and limited three-point shooting, and those are the calling cards of the modern NBA.
Yeah, I think this may be too reactionary, but this Steven Adams ankle situation has got me a little concerned, frankly. What happened in Spain, concerning, but it was first game of the preseason. He goes out, he doesn't play the second game. But then Wednesday, at the end of practice, after the formal practice time, he injures the ankle. Erik and Brett observe it. And, I don't know. I don't want to be alarmist because I don't think we know anything at this point to be alarmed about. But he is so central to what they do. You talk about the defensive flexibility. Adams is so central to this team, where they're going to go defensively, not just on the interior, but all the way around. He can be that Kendrick Perkins. I think, I don't know if that was you or Brett that wrote about that, sort of that, that defensive traffic cop, if you will. Being the guy that is barking out the instructions and then is cleaning things up at the rim. So he is so central to what they do. They just have to have Steven Adams play a lot of games this year.
he's so important to what they're going to have to get done this year defensively. And when he's not out there, I mean, it's very obvious that these guys are still trying to learn each other. And just to have that veteran presence back there and a guy that can guard multiple positions and slide quicker than somebody else you'd have at the center position is critical. I think a thing that's been a little undersold in this preseason is not having Cameron Payne. And as Berry talked about with not having enough outside shooting, if you don't have enough outside shooting, you need people that can create shots some way, some shape, some form. You've got Russell Westbrook, you've got Victor Oladipo. Cameron Payne would have been the next guy in that perimeter lineup that can create shots. He's a good creator for other people getting them shots, and he can create for himself, whether it's driving or shooting from the perimeter. So to not have Cameron Payne out there going through this foot fracture, I think it's bad for the Thunder and as well as Cameron Payne's development too as a young player.
Thanks, guys. That's all for Thunder Thursday. The Thunder's back in action tonight in Tulsa, their annual preseason game at the BOK Center against the Memphis Grizzlies this year. And then Sunday against Minnesota, they will be here, right, at the Peak. So for the best Thunder coverage anywhere, stay right here at newsok.com and make sure to read us every day in the Oklahoman.